A world torn apart by disaster, a new society has emerged. Scarred survivors band together, their shared humanity, the only thing that keeps them pushing on against the hordes. But amongst this chaos, a new hero has risen. In the tumult of survival, an idiot on a Segway rides around with his tackle in the wind and asks people about board games. This is The Guild. Starring Ben Maddox as, really? You're going to resurrect this old shit? And Steven Syrek as, and you managed to convince someone else to bloody do it too. Look, I'm not being funny, but I thought, what with the crisis and everything, that you just knock this old crap on the head. Maybe add some value to the world or something, but no, go on. Hit the dead horse. It's dead, won't feel anything, but give it a smack for all you're worth.
Oh, listen to that, Stevie.
What, the sound of the zombies tearing flesh away from bones, and grinding it between their teeth.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
Spitting out the gristle, the parts that they can't, even that the zombies can't digest.
And you know what's really weird?
The screams of the victims.
Every fourth person actually does a Wilhelm scream in real life. Isn't that weird?
Wait, do your Wilhelm scream.
Fellas to meet. But
it is kind of funny when you put it that way. I never actually thought people being horribly, gruesomely devoured by zombies could be funny, because it's not. It's awful to witness. In fact, I've got images in my mind from being in this compound that I don't really understand how I'm expected to live with them. And yet, now that you've put it in this new light, I think it's actually kind of great.
Well, I mean, look at it.
I'm going to laugh myself to sleep every night.
For the last 3.5 months, we've been under lockdown.
Yep.
Me, you,
and
the frozen head, now completely thawed and a little bit maggoty head.
Little rank.
Meopolis, Peopolis. And we've just had each other coming outside now, as everything, the leader has relaxed everything, and that we're able to listen to the sounds of zombies tearing each other's balls off and using them as mouth gobstoppers is a blessing.
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
I got quite close to the edge in those 3.5 months, Stevie.
Yeah, I saw that.
When you were like constantly drinking the head juice and screaming at the light fittings. I was worried.
I saw the walls of your room, your cell, as it were.
A room is overselling it, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, your allotted space.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you grow out your nails or something? I mean.
Well, I had to.
Those are like thick concrete walls, and yet they're like an inch deep.
Yeah, a drawing.
Huh?
A drawing.
No, just like the scratching.
Yeah. Didn't you see the full picture?
It's a picture? What is it a picture of?
Well, I've gone back, because when the world was normal, we walked Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
And we realised that graffiti has a theme.
This didn't look like graffiti. This looked like the attempts of an insane person to try and get out of a prison that's in their own imagination.
Oh, to you, I could see as a Palestine, I could understand that, but as a man of artistic embrasure. That's a word I use.
It's a word.
Got an issue with it?
No, It's like it's got the same sort of quality as like lucubrations, It's
right.
A bit old-fashioned. Sounds made up, isn't, but nobody would use it. But
But the thing is,
embrasure, I'll take it.
I'm an artist.
Yep.
And you're just a Palestine, aren't you?
I see what you're trying to do.
And if you'd have looked at the scratches,
I'm vaguely uncomfortable.
If you looked at the scratches,
yep.
They were a giant
map of the Holy Land.
They were a giant
picture of your ball sack.
Schwanza Grand, Steve.
What is that?
Well, I was copying the graffiti style of ancient Roman soldiers, Steve.
Oh, okay. What are the kinds of things that ancient Roman soldiers tend to depict in their graffiti?
Willis.
Okay, what else?
I only remember, I might say a lot about my brain, but I only remember the Willis.
Nothing else.
Did you remember anything else?
This is one of the great classical civilizations,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Stood for how many centuries?
Quite a few.
Gave to the modern world, even passed down a cultural inheritance that is practically unrivaled, at least in the Western world.
Right. Some words.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
literature, philosophy,
Yeah.
the entire legal systems of various countries,
What's his name? Cato.
aqueducts. The aqueducts are pretty good. You have to admit that.
Cato. We're not descending into
Cato.
referentialness.
Cato, and
Bigger stickers.
the sum total of all of that
Yeah.
achievement to
Yeah.
you
Me.
is a bunch of graffiti cocks.
I'm talking about the graffiti. I'm not talking about the works of literature. But I think graffiti is
What do you remember from the works of literature?
the satires.
Okay, what specifically about them?
Well, they were quite tumescent, weren't they? They like to run around around the forest, cock out as it was.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly didn't ask permission before they transgressed, did they?
Well, I'm not going to get into.
It was not the age of consent, the Roman Empire.
Well, I'm not going to get into nymphs, but because I don't really remember it. But I remember the satires.
Wouldn't you like to get into a nymph?
I mean, after 3 months in a room with you and the frozen head of Meeple Pete, Steve, my libido has died.
I can understand that, but the frozen head of Meeple Pete is moist.
But anyway,
Think about it.
I managed. I won't. I managed. I came out. I fully expected my Segway to have been requisitioned by the leader, but surprisingly, I mean, do you remember in June 2020 when they announced that they were going out of production?
Everybody remembers that. That was like...
It's a turning point of human civilization.
I actually can't think of a news item in June of 2020 that was bigger and landed with more of an impact.
Well, the point is, everyone talked about, was it Donald Trump? Was it the rise of populism that led to the downfall of society?
Yeah.
But from little acorns, mighty oaks grow. And it was the lack of production of Segways that led to a complete disavowal of human values.
Nobody could have predicted that.
No.
I mean, you did, in a way.
Well, I always was a fan of the Segway because I'm clownish.
Anyway, moving along.
Anyway, so
That was a segue joke.
Oh, very good, very good. Anyway, so I come out. My Segway was there. I fired her up. And her.
Why her?
Because all vehicles are hers, aren't they? So my dad taught me.
Okay.
I fired her up.
Yep, like guitars.
Yeah, exactly. I fired her up, and her sort of went.
And boats as well, right? Boats.
Boats are ladies.
What else?
Ladies.
Ladies are ladies?
Yeah.
Sometimes? Shouldn't make assumptions, though.
But your bicycles.
Okay. So you fired up the Segway.
Yeah. Wow, wow was the noise it made. Sort of made, wow. Electronic joy. Still going, I thought. And I thought, everyone after the lockdown is going to be aching to see me and answer my questions. So I whipped off my shorts and my top.
I don't know why you do that. Why can't you ask them questions clothed?
Honestly, it never occurred to me to do that.
I mean, again, perspective, right? Why would I assume that you need to do that?
Can a person ask a question with clothing on?
You just did.
Look down.
Oh no.
Anyway, so I went around and I was asking them questions. And there was a lot of people, some people had eaten other people because the leader had forgotten to give them rations. So they were distraught and they were like, "No, Ben, leave me alone." And there were other people who,
When the people said, "No, Ben, leave me alone,"
Yeah.
did you leave them alone?
Yeah. I asked them a couple of questions
I was going to say,
first.
did you persist? I mean, you just gave up?
How long is a piece of persistence?
Well, I don't know. I mean, ask like 5 or 6 times.
That's hardly persisting. That's
get
just
over-
asking a question.
Okay, what is persisting to you?
Do you like fish, 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 like fish?
How long?
Do you like fish, like fish, like fish, like fish, like fish, like fish? Fish?
Is that
Do you like fish?
is that being persistent or just being annoying?
Do you like fish? You, Stevie, how do you feel about the fish? You like the fish? I'd say that's persistent.
It's annoying.
I don't think it's annoying. I think it's quite sexy.
It's like on the verge of infuriating. I mean, how come nobody punches you in the face?
People do. Why do you think I look like this?
How often have you been punched in the face?
9 times.
In your entire life?
This morning.
I'm sure you deserved every single one.
But anyway, some people did answer me.
Yep.
after they wiped the smegma out of their eyes.
Yeah. What was the question, though?
So the question was, it wasn't so much of a question. I thought I'd elicit some responses. And I asked them, tell me, as we're coming out, we need to feel better about ourselves. Tell us some positive gaming experiences. So first of all, Steve, when we were setting up to record, a little bit behind the curtain here, you said to me, but they're all positive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Would you care to elaborate?
Well, gaming experiences. Let me think. Positive gaming experiences. Okay, there's that that one time long ago. Do you remember Jonna?
I mean, I remember her.
Yeah. Back before the incident.
Yeah.
Well, I beat her at a board. So she was a friend of ours, for the listeners, who just always wins.
Always wins.
Wins every single time, right? We are always humiliated.
Yep.
So if you could get like 20 points in the game and that's a good score, she would score 80. We would score 5.
No, don't get me wrong here.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with emasculation or losing to a woman or anything like that.
No.
Before you think of that, it's just that she has the ability. She had the ability before the incident of deconstructing the mechanics of a game and reformulating them in her head to, follow the optimum path to points generation.
Yeah, in the past, when she still
With us.
existed,
She still exists.
I mean, in our memory. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Let's not. Yeah, so utter humiliation every time we play a game with her, except one time I won. I happened to win. I think she was tired, or I got lucky, or I'm not so terrible at board games that I can't win once in a while. That was a happy memory, that time that I won. There was also a different time that
All
I
right,
won.
actually though, seriously though,
Yeah.
picking up on that, how important is winning to the enjoyment of a gaming experience?
Haven't we done this question before?
I'm sure we have, but come on.
I mean, in general, it's not important. No, it's not important, except winning against her feels pretty great when it happens.
Well,
I
Nick-
enjoy the game anyway.
And Nick Mariner said, in one of his pieces he wrote for my previous podcast, he said that, like it or not, and you might say that gaming is all about the community and all of this sort of stuff, but like it or not, there is a thrill to winning. There is a feeling, no matter how elusive and how fleeting, there is a feeling of achievement and somehow justification when you play the game and you win. It may last only 20 seconds. Do you think that's true?
Well, you asked how important it is. I mean, I don't deny that there's a thrill to winning. I try to win, and I definitely enjoy it, but I wouldn't say it's so important. But when I beat Jonna at a board game, happy memory. So it was that one time I did manage to beat her. There was another time I managed to beat her. I think maybe there was a third time. There's this other guy, I don't even want to say his name, but you know who I'm
No,
talking. Yeah,
he's still alive.
well, do you call that alive?
Well, I wouldn't let him in the compound, but
So, yeah, I beat him. Okay, seriously though, God, remember that one time we played Concordia, and just like Concordia just sort of like, it like lands in a way. I mean, every single time actually I play it, I don't ever feel like I have a bad round of Concordia.
Well, it's this
What
thing, isn't it?
circumstances am I supposed to describe?
It's this thing, isn't it? We talk about.
People remember negative things more than positive things, don't they?
I disagree. I mean,
I remember some terrible games.
I think the negative has its edges knocked off over
No, I
time.
mean, like, psychologically, people remember a lot of.
I
negative
disagree
things.
with you. I think
What do you mean
negative.
you disagree with me? This is Psychology 101.
I think negative things, the closer to the proximity of the negative event, the more raw it is. But I think as time goes by, this is why nostalgia is such a thing, right? Because the negative things get sort of scrubbed out by time.
I remember all of them.
But the point is, right, it's really interesting because when you talk about positive gaming experience, people are always going to reach for, that time when the person whose family member had just died, and it was the first time they'd come out and they played a game and they said thank you because they felt accepted into a group, or that time where you laughed all night and it was incredible and you drank booze at a convention, played this game, and it was all about this communal experience. Yet I know the game of Concordia you're talking about. And this was a quiet, modest example of the kind of joy that games can promote. Because we finished playing and all of us stood up around the table in contented silence for what seemed like about 5 minutes. It was probably about 20 seconds. But there was this just sort of,
Do you remember who won that game?
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
Utterly inconsequential, right? And so I think there are the notion of a positive experience in gaming is sort of a double thing, right? So it can be the game can be utterly inconsequential. It can be the people around the table that provide you with this absolutely valuable experience that is life affirming. And the reason most people talk about wanting to game is to be with people and to see them and experience people in a world where we're being ever more atomized. But there is a positive gaming experience that is directly created by the game itself, right?
I find it difficult to remember individual gaming experiences. I do remember what it was like to play board games in the 90s when I first discovered the hobby. I mean, I played board games in the 80s as well, Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers games. But it wasn't until the 90s, I think Magic the Gathering was my way in. Discovered war games at the same time, these train games that I enjoy, and just whatever there was. There wasn't much at that time, or not much that was available to me, but I went to this gaming group in Old New Jersey, back in the former United States, and just every week was something new, something extraordinary. I can't remember the first time I played History of the World, but I remember showing up. I mean, this would be like a nightmare for you probably, showing up at noon and playing this game until 1 a.m. sometimes, because we would just take our time. We would stop for meals. Nobody was sort of in a rush. And I couldn't believe games could be like that. I couldn't believe they could be these kinds of like rich, immersive experiences. And I was 15 and these guys were all, I don't know, late 20s, some of them 30s, 40s. It was quite a diverse, I shouldn't use the word diverse, actually. They weren't diverse at all. But, in terms of age, they were quite diverse. And I did this every Sunday for years. And I wouldn't be in this hobby now if it weren't for having gone through that experience then, because I stopped playing games as frequently in the 2000s, but I carried this with me.
So why did you come back? Because you moved to Berlin and then you threw yourself forcefully back into the hobby. Was it insecurity at a new place and trying to grasp?
No.
Or was it nostalgia?
You always characterize my gaming biography as if there is this gap where I didn't play games. I always played games. When I started grad school, it was 2002, and I had some friends and we frequently played games. We didn't play a lot of new games. I would say the thing that characterizes my game playing now is I play new games constantly, like almost every week there's something new. Back then we had Settlers, we played a lot of that. I played a lot of D&D, I played a lot of these train games, History of the World. Like, I think I bought Twilight Imperium 3rd edition at one point. I played that once, didn't particularly like it. But I was always playing games. I would say it was a bit more punctuated as time went on, especially in the late 2000s. And I mean, as you know, I'm from New York City. That's where I'm from.
Absolutely from New York City.
From New York.
Born within the sound of Brooklyn Bridge.
I would say that if there's a gap in my gaming, it's probably from the time I lived in Japan until I moved here. And that is definitely like a good 10-year period when I was living in New York and being in New York.
That's a gap, no?
It's a gap.
I mean, 10 years, bloody hell. You're only 40.
I still played here, well, that doesn't seem like very long. I still played here and there, but I always was looking for an opportunity to get back into it. I was always looking for an opportunity to play any of these games that I owned. Would someone please play Australian Rails with me? In fact, I played this with Samantha in, 2012, not too long after we met. But when she said she wanted to move to Germany, I mean, something lit up in me, because I always knew that Germany was the homeland, the Heimat, if you will, of board games. I've always known about Essen. I knew that if I came here, without any friends, without anything in particular to do, having to sort of build a life, I knew that I would be able to find a board game group or a meetup or something. I figured there must be something going on because this is the land of board games, and I was excited about that prospect. And I said to Samantha, I'm in, and this is one reason why I'm actually excited. I was never that interested in like Germany specifically, but if we're going to Germany, I'm playing board games.
And so now this might
I'm
be
reviving the hobby is what I decided.
this might be asking you to choose between children, but which is the more valuable sort of gaming part of your career? You're sort of as a young boy being delicately sensually guided through the world of war games, or now as a rugged old warrior playing games, being beaten by lots of people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was beaten by lots of people back then too. Although I did win the Origins Robo Rally tournament in 1998 or something. I don't remember what year.
Will that be on the internet?
No idea. No idea. Robo Rally, another great game. Discovered at that time. Yeah, I can't say. I mean, I wouldn't have one without the other.
But which one do you think has defined you more as a gamer?
I think defined probably back then when I was a teenager.
Who's the cooler group?
I mean, we're the cooler group now.
Who's the coolest person you've met in the gaming world?
So do you remember that time we were playing Vast, the Mysterious Man?
Yeah, remember that. Great times.
There was this one guy.
He was great.
Yeah. I mean, he's like the coolest guy I've ever met.
I'm going to stab your eyeballs out.
I couldn't believe, like...
Cooler than me.
He literally... I mean, this is the definition of cool, right? He literally did not care how we felt, how impatient we were that he'd get on with his turn. He just took his time. He thought about what he wanted to do, took 17 minutes on one of his turns, was no problem for him. Big problem for us, but he just kept his cool and did his thing. And like, God, you have to admire that, right?
You have to. It's very cool.
Amazing guy. I hope I never see him again for as long as I live.
So anyway, I was speaking to the doyen of ex-British game design, now trench digger and outside...
Is that one Sir Anthony Boydell?
Outside defecator, Anthony Boydell. And I'm going to read you this story, and I want you to give me a feels rating.
Okay.
So 10 feels, max feels.
I mean, I'm a middle-aged man, so...
Zero feels, no feels.
I can do like somewhere between 0 and 1. Well, let's see. Let's hear it.
I'll give you. Tell me, and I can't do the accent, but I'll give it a go.
Okay.
Oh, lovely. Back in the early 2010s, like, the kids were all at home and sat around the kitchen table. It's gone Geordie now. Playing My Black Overcoat game for the first time in ages. A spur-of-the-moment event. Everyone just wanted to play it.
I gotta say, the accent is getting in the way of the feels.
The copy... I'll go back to Welsh again. Oh, lovely. The copy was my original prototype with all of the hand-drawn pictures done by friends and family when they played it in the 1990s. Some of the pictures had been done by mine and Mrs. B's dear friend Rob. That very weekend as we were playing BOG, Rob passed away. I shouldn't have done the accent, really. I hadn't read ahead.
Nice.
After a long struggle with lymphoma. I'm going to turn off the accent now.
Friend of yours, right?
Yeah. When we found out the next day, we wept, yes, but also felt quite overwhelmed that we had such a strong urge to play one of our and his favourite games. I'll go back to the accent now. It was like he had been playing it with us. I smile at the recollection of a dear pal and all the great games we played together.
So I think I can get there with the feels because I don't know if I told you this. On a lark some weeks ago, maybe some months ago now, I was curious if we didn't have meetups in the 90s, but like this gaming group, I wondered if it still existed, and I thought if it does, they probably migrated to Meetup. So I don't know. I looked up the person who introduced me to this group on Meetup, and I remember him from the 90s. He was in his mid-20s, like young guy, young family. I think actually when I met him, he had just had his first baby, and And then I did find him on Meetup, and now he's must be in his late 50s or early 60s or something. I mean, you can do the math. I'm not getting it right here. But anyways,
50s.
he looks like a fat middle-aged guy with white hair. And his kids are grown up. This is a picture of him with his kids. And I sent him a message, just say, hey, remember me? I just wanted to thank you for introducing me to this meetup all those years ago, because I'm living in Germany, I'm back into games, I'm just really enjoying it, and I wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for you, probably. I mean, he was really this sort of key person for me. Didn't write back.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't check his meetup messages, or maybe he went to spam or something.
Maybe he hated you.
Yeah, I mean, I was an obnoxious little cunt back then.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna get into old stories, the reason I'm here with you today.
You couldn't find anybody else?
No. Well, I mean, we have been stuck in a room together for the last 3 months.
And it's been great.
And no boning.
No complaints.
No boning.
I mean, not while you were awake.
Anyway, so back in my youth, when I was about 17 or 18, I was homeless. And I was taken in by a couple of people. And I slept on their sofa. And we would have a nightly ritual of communing with the sacred herb, Steve.
Which herb?
Marijuana, Steve.
Oh, I see.
And so we would get stoned, and we'd watch telly, and we'd play Super NES and all of this sort of stuff. And one night, one of the guys said...
Super NES?
Super NES, yeah.
When you were 18?
Yeah. It's like mid-90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 94, 95?
I'm trying to think. Maybe that was just before the N64.
Yeah, Super NES. Anyway, so...
I'm trying to poke holes in your story.
Anyway, one night he said, oh, I've got this thing. It's called Call of Cthulhu. Do you want to play it?
Okay.
And we were just like, oh yeah, why not? And so we all made characters. And I made a Brazilian visiting professor.
Nice.
And one of the guys made a character who was a private detective called Raymond Chandler-escent, which was very witty. And we smoked some weed. And then we played just this... And
did you play Call of Cthulhu before you ever played D&D?
yeah, absolutely. It was the first role-playing game I ever played.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we just played this, and we played this game, and this guy was so good. And it went on till like 4 o'clock in the morning. And this guy was so good, and he was, so involving, and he played all the characters, and it was just so invigorating and enriching. And although I didn't get into gaming for another 17, 18 years after that always stuck with me. And it's stuck in my heart, and always, even though, I tried to avoid nerd stuff, I always had a sort of predilection for that kind of thing.
So you're evoking a memory now. This is a good one.
Okay.
Prelude. I spent a large part of the 90s as well, and a large fraction of whatever disposable income I had at the time, going to the gaming shop and buying RPG books just to read them and never playing them. And back then, a lot of D&D 2nd edition, GURPS was a thing. There was this company called Phasa that did BattleTech and Earth Dawn. I got really into World of Darkness, so werewolf, vampire, wraith, changeling, mage, that kind of stuff. But I had nobody to play these games with. I would buy them and I would read them, and I don't know, there was something about like games as a genre of literature that appealed to me. Finally, when I got to grad school, I found a D&D group, and we had a long-running campaign. It actually persisted beyond... I moved, I think... So it went on for years, and then I actually moved away. As when I moved to Japan, they kept going, and then 2 years later, I came back, and they were still running the campaign, so my character was able to make a reappearance, which was fun. Before that happened, I remember in one particular session, my character was an elf who had been abandoned by the elves and raised by humans, and decided to disown the elven people, and didn't want anything to do with elves, and actually chopped off the tops of her ears.
Oh, nice.
She wouldn't even be identified as an elf, and like tied a kind of, I don't know, bandana around her head. I think I was playing as a monk. I think this was maybe 4th edition or something. 3rd or 4th, I don't remember. Anyway, I played her as kind of a disaffected badass.
Did you have a voice? Hello, my name's Elfina.
I'm not proud of the voice.
Go on then, give us a quick Elfina.
No.
Come on, give us a quick Elfina.
No.
Come on. Hello there, my lord.
It was like, no, I can't.
Come on. All right, my lord, how's it going? Want a drink?
During one session, there was an encounter with a dragon, and the dragon was attacking us, and at one point I used my tumbling ability to jump onto the dragon's back, and then I think I had some kind of psionic power, and I communicated with the dragon.
What did you say?
I don't remember, but I tried to subdue the dragon.
Was it something like, "Oh, sit down, dragon, how's it going, mate?"
No, not at all. The dragon was flying through the air, attempting to rain fiery destruction down on my friends.
Okay.
And I was trying to convince the dragon to knock it off.
In what voice were you trying to convince the dragon?
There's no way I'm going to do the voice.
All right, Mr. Dragon.
Anyway,
I'm Elfina.
I had the bright idea to actually start punching the dragon in midair.
Ooh.
And because I was a monk, I actually managed to score a critical hit, and I punched it to death. But it was in midair, which means the dragon fell out of the sky with me on it, or I don't know, kind of glided the way an airplane would glide into
glid, yeah.
Glid?
I've decided.
I don't think so.
I've spoken.
I don't think so. Anyway, at the moment of impact, I used my acrobatic ability to jump off of the dragon and tumble to avoid damage, and it worked.
And what did you say?
I literally single-handedly killed the dragon in midair, tumbled off of it, dusted myself off, and proceeded to take my knife and cut the dragon's heart out, and then I had it for dinner that night.
What did you say? What did Elfina say?
I mean, what would you say?
All right, my lover. Bit of art. Slice of art.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was something like that.
Anyway, I was having a chat with Matt Green, Mr. Green 02.
Always got something useful to say.
And he gave you a little story. Okay, the feels. I want you to give me feels out of 10.
I didn't give you a rating on...
What was Tony's? I mean, I kind of ruined it with a terrible accent somewhat.
Yeah.
Wasn't a great performance. Wasn't one of my biggest moments.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say 9, because look at where it brought me.
Exactly.
It brought me to a place
of self-indulgence, and you didn't even do the Elfina voice.
I'm never doing this voice.
So if anyone wants to know, get on the old compound tweeter and say at Stephen J. Syrek, do the Elfina voice. So anyway, can't do the accent. I played a lot.
Her name was Sakura.
So Elfina voice, hashtag Elfina voice. I played a lot of tournament level Magic up until 2003, see? The scene back then was a lot less serious than it is now, certainly in the UK anyway. When it came out, it attracted folk from different backgrounds, but all from the peripheries of geekdom, and was a melting pot for meeting interesting people.
What's a melting plot?
Shut your face. A group of us at the
Wait, is that like when you tell a story and it just sort of falls apart as you're telling it?
Yeah. It's when people constantly interrupt you.
Go ahead.
A group of us at the UK National Magic Championships in 2003, I think, played Lunch Money, which isn't the greatest game, but it's great fun with the right crowd. Indeed, we were having so much fun that we were late for a round. When we came to the conclusion that it was more fun than Magic, and I never went to a constructed Magic tournament again. It was the epiphany that it wasn't about the game. I was here for the people and the game. Whatever it was just a social construct. I fucked this up. I was here for the people, and the game, whatever it was just a social construct to share time with like-minded folk. And that didn't need to include playing a competitive CCG, which stands for what?
Collectible card game, Ben.
Clocker, Gocker, Knocker. That's what it stands for, Steve.
There are a lot of people I would not hang out with if it weren't for the games. So I don't know if I can agree with that.
Tarek, this is the end of the story.
Oh, there's more.
Tarek, this is in quotes.
Yeah.
Do you want to read Tarek?
Tariq.
No, I'm reading Matt and you read Tarek. Tarek, unfortunately for you,
I think it's Tariq.
Tarek, unfortunately for you, I've decided that kicking you squarely in the nuts is the correct course of action at this point.
Oh, really? And it says I'm fanning my cards.
Alas, yes, the connection of my boot with your love spuds is the best way forward for me.
I see. Well, I'm going to block that kick with a less sensitive area and grab your leg, Matt. Just going to check in at this point. How are you feeling about the situation?
It was certainly a somewhat unexpected turn of events. Did you get that non sequitur?
I don't get it.
Nor me. But anyway, so, okay, there's this idea, and we've sort of touched on this, I think, a little bit, but there's this idea that it's actually not about the games. The games are inconsequential. And it's about the people.
I don't know. I think kind of it's about the games.
But I think...
I was addicted to Magic back then.
But I think if you value games as an art form, and I think I certainly do, and I think you share that view with me,
Yeah.
it has to come down to the games at some point, right?
It is completely about the game. I mean, you and I have somehow fallen ass backwards into a friendship.
Yeah.
But I
don't
think this is the typical course of events. I mean, there are a lot of people in our gaming group that we see them because they share the common interest, but we don't necessarily hang out with them outside of a gaming context. When I think this is fine. I enjoy games and I deliberately seek out opportunities to play them. I don't necessarily. I mean, I know tons of people in Berlin who play games. I cannot possibly be friends with all of them.
Right.
And do I go for the specific social experience of hanging out with a bunch of board gamers? I mean...
But I tell you one thing, though.
There's like some of that.
Do you know what I really miss since the lockdown?
What?
Since the, there are some people that say the leader has just constructed certain satellite dishes that give out a signal that makes us more susceptible to the leader's wishes, and the virus is actually just a myth. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds reasonable.
Anyway, but since lockdown, and there have been no game nights.
Yeah, I do prefer gaming in person.
I've really missed game nights.
Yeah.
No, not just playing games, because we've played a few games together now, and it's great, but I do like the sitting in a room with
the frigion.
15 other people who are playing games at different tables.
Do you like the frigion?
Isn't that nuclear power?
Frigion, that's fission. I'm talking about frigion.
Yeah. So you get the uranium and you stick it up Uranus. That's why the planet's called Uranus, isn't it? Because it's nuclear.
You would never let me get away with this joke.
How dare you? But anyway, don't you think there is something about... I mean, the games are great, but it's... Why don't you play Animal Crossing? Why do you play board games?
Why don't I mean, Animal Crossing is a one-player game, right?
Well, this is the point, right? Yeah.
Well, I play Minecraft sometimes.
But do you get the joy? Does it feel as much of an event as playing a board game? I mean, it certainly doesn't for me. It's the reason I play analog games as opposed... The reason I started an analog game podcast as opposed to,
It's stimulating. It's not the same. I mean, I can listen to podcasts while I play Minecraft, and, sometimes I do that. It drains a lot out of me because, I mean, Animal Crossing, Minecraft, games like this, Civilization when I was younger, and SimCity, they're endless, right? There's no conclusion. And I think I probably played some of these games for 12 hours at a stretch, and it drains a lot out of you, and it's kind of an addiction. Do you think board games are addictive?
The acquisition of board games is addictive.
Well, I mean, this is just, consumerism, I guess. But I can't imagine, like, you come over, maybe two other people come over, we play a board game, I don't finish that board game and then want to do it again.
Well, no, but I feel better when I'm playing games more regularly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an addiction necessarily, though I do feel the lack when I don't do it.
Are we suggesting that this is a nuanced question?
I don't like nuance, not a fan. It's a French word. But the point is, I think, there's something about board games as well, is that they're self-contained, right? Mm-hmm. You play them and they finish, and there is a definite planned for end point.
Yeah, and the sort of work of artness of them, in a sense, it's the arc of the game. I mean, right. I always say, like, games, the best games for me are the ones that feel like you're, like, telling a story. And it's got a beginning, what do I do, how do I make sense of this? The middle, okay, I figured out how to build my engine, or how do I, achieve some goals, or what am I trying to do, or, you set some goals maybe, I don't know. And then the end, right? And you're racing toward the conclusion, and you're hoping that you're the one who gets there first. And that can be very satisfying, irrespective of who actually wins, or, even if you're playing a co-op, I think this can be the case. Not every game satisfies that, but this to me captures.
This is why some games
essence.
don't feel good, right? In the sense that when you say a game feels like it's too quick or it feels like it's too long, it's because it doesn't fulfill those particular waypoints along the story, right?
And there are short games that feel long and long games that feel short.
Well, we were talking about this, and you haven't played it, but I was talking about Motainai. We were talking about Motainai the other day, and Motainai is one of those games that
What a waste.
Yeah, that takes 20 minutes and yet feels like a complete experience. It hits all of those points that it needs to hit. Whereas something like, for me, maybe Marco Polo feels like it finishes too quickly. That I don't...
The game that kids play in the swimming pool?
Exactly, yeah. Where you shout, I shot it in
Marco.
your face!
Marco. And then you say?
I'm British, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, never mind.
But okay, what is the... So,
Can you play Marco Polo anymore? Or is that like...
I have no idea.
Probably you shouldn't.
Everyone's dead. It's fine. You can do anything you want. But, so, what is the quintessence of a great gaming experience?
Oh, you like to ask easy questions, don't you? I mean, there's this notion of time well spent, like this Concordia experience where you're just so... You can't imagine having done... You can't imagine like that you would rather have done something else, basically, you know? You got something out of it. Maybe you grew as a person, you learned something, you came away enriched by the experience. I mean, it probably would seem very trivial to people who don't play board games that is possible, but I think this is entirely possible. Let's take another game, which I think is a rare example of a short game that feels very long, but not in a bad way. And that's The Grizzled. Which is not a particularly long game, but when you're playing it, it is torturously long. But you don't finish a game of The Grizzled, which usually ends badly, feeling like you wish you hadn't done it. It was a waste of time. It was awful. It was too long. It's an experience, and it wouldn't even. It's not a happy experience, right? But it's an experience. It's something.
Well, this is the point, right? And I think
it's got an edge to it.
This is my biggest criticism of nerd culture, is that it's endlessly superficial, and this idea that a valuable experience should somehow result in happiness. And it's just not true. A valuable experience, and especially in art, and the beauty about art is that we can have this experience without, it's like a roller coaster. We can have the danger without the danger, if you see what I mean. And I resent this idea that everything has to be superficial. Everything has to be about happiness. Everything has to be about smiles. The Grizzled proves that the excoriation of the soul, the exploration of the extremities that humans can put other humans into is a valuable experience even from a distance. And not just valuable, enjoyable too.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for any kind of argument or case to make for games as works of art, I mean, this one is like right in the center of that argument. And another one, I don't want to spoil the ending. I mean, you told me about this game Train.
Right.
Exactly the same effect, right?
I mean, I think Train fails as a game.
Maybe so.
But I think because it's not a game, it's an experiment. But I think whereas Train fails because it's kind of not playable again.
Yeah.
The Grizzled is endlessly playable. We can visit that endlessly. And although we'll never, it can never really...
Are legacy games playable again? I mean, I guess you could, but you sort of
But the point...
know how things are going to end up.
But you can play a legacy game more than once, right?
Can?
Yeah.
I mean, if you buy a new one?
No, I mean more than once iteration of the game.
Oh, because you have to play it like...
10 times,
Yeah,
15
okay.
times, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that was a very valuable conversation, Stevie.
No more questions?
Not from me.
No more answers?
Never.
From the guild?
I'm gonna go.
Well, wait a minute. We should celebrate the fact that we've got a very special day coming up. A holiday, in fact, is coming up. What is today? July 1st? Do you know what holiday is coming up? A very important day for the entire world,
Is
actually.
it the 7th of July?
No.
6th of July.
6th of July. It's not the 4th of July, by the way.
No. That's the irradiated states of America no longer support that. But it is. You tell the people.
What
Steve.
do we call the 6th of July? It was in German terms
Treffungstag?
6717, right?
Erster Treffungstag? Is that what they call it?
I mean, Stephen Ben's Day or Ben and Steve's Day doesn't feel like the right.
Commune Day.
Something sexier than that.
Let's put
You're
it out.
close though with Commune Day.
Let's put it out to the audience. So, we are experiencing on the 6th of July our 3rd anniversary of having met each other when we met to play New Angeles, very underrated game, I might add.
Yep.
And you know,
Ben did not like me that day.
no, I thought he was a bellend.
It was not love at first sight.
I was sending sneaky WhatsApps to people saying, "God, he's a dickhead, isn't he?"
Yeah, he met me and he thought I was a bellend, and over the course of time, he changed his mind.
I did.
And I thought Ben was great, and I changed my mind too.
Absolutely. So, what I'd like you to do, all of those who listen to this and think of a good term for the anniversary of mine and Steve's first meeting, whack her up on the guild or the twiter. See you laterers.
Will Ben realise that no one on the compound wants to see his dangler wangler? Will Steve drown in the pool of nostalgia he's just urinated all over the floor, thinking about those 72-hour games of history of the world? Does anyone care? Do you? I don't even know what caring means at this point. But if you do, go to Board Game Geek Guild 3209 or listen to the next episode of The Guild.